Hey guys, thank you for joining me so much. This is my Tuesday morning rant, just getting it in before lunchtime. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about statins and cholesterol. It seems like a lot of my patients are coming in asking me about what do I think about cholesterol and showing me their lab work and things like that. And you know, the number one thing I see that's a problem is people are not really understanding cholesterol's function in the body. So I just want to talk for 1 second about cholesterol. When I look on the websites, and I'm going to have some notes here, so please forgive me if you see me looking at this, but I want to make sure I accurately quote some of the websites. One of the first ones I went to was the website, the clevelandclinic.org, and they talk about how high levels of cholesterol can lead to heart disease. It was interesting in all of the things I read, whether it's Cleveland Clinic or the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, which is a government site, or the Mayo Clinic, the language was always lead to, or it's an indicate, or things like that, but never does it say high cholesterol causes heart disease. So I just want to clear that up. One of the things they describe cholesterol to be is a waxy substance that is plaquing to the arteries. So it really doesn't give any credit as to what cholesterol even does. It makes it sound like it's some bad guy. Most of our cholesterol is made in the liver, and in fact we don't need to eat any cholesterol. We can make as much as we need, and what we eat, if it's an animal fat, it will contain some cholesterol typically. And so that cholesterol is going to be the building blocks of your sex hormones. And before you say yippee and get excited, it doesn't mean hormones that just make you want to have sex. It also is the androgens, hormones that make you masculine, hormones that make you feminine, those kind of things. But I mean, who the heck doesn't like sex hormones, for crying out loud? Also makes your adrenal hormones, and those are hormones that help you deal with stress. So before we get too fired up and try to eliminate cholesterol, we got to realize, hey, cholesterol is a huge importance in our body. So that is what cholesterol is utilized for. It's actually made in the liver, and then the only way to eliminate it out of the body is through things like fiber and bile, and I believe the liver makes that too and stores it in the gallbladder, and that helps break down fats and grab that cholesterol and get it out of our body. So a lot of time, high cholesterol is just a decrease of cholesterol leaving the body. Doesn't necessarily mean you're making too much, you're just maybe accumulating too much. So diet has huge implications there. The diet recommendations seemed a little sketch. It talked a lot about fruits and vegetables, but then it went on to list all these high glycemic fruits. In the paragraph above it, it talks about how metabolic syndromes and insulin problems, blood sugar problems are very indicated in this whole heart disease cholesterol thing. And then the second part of the paragraph talks about the diet to lower cholesterol, but then it gives you a bunch of sugar things. Well, if you go to a doctor and they tell you cholesterol is bad, let's get it down, then they tell you what to eat, and that actually makes it worse, well then guess what you're going to end up taking? Most of the time I see my patients ended up taking some sort of cholesterol lowering drug, which I believe the leading one is a statin. No better time than now to say I am not giving you medical advice about what to do with medications. I am not a medical doctor. I cannot take you off of something that's been prescribed by a medical doctor. I never would, never want to, so go talk to your medical doctors about this. I'm just telling you what I would do perhaps, or my opinions on things, or just the facts of how this all works, okay? So, no medical advice. Another thing is, after I'm hunting around looking at all these blood cholesterol things, I found that the plaquing, if you Google what is the plaquing in the artery, and I remember it being much more than just cholesterol. In fact, in school I remember hearing that damaged arteries use cholesterol to fill in those damaged, cracks and fissures in the arterial wall. So really cholesterol is not a bad guy at all. I think the bad guy would be whatever's tearing up your arteries, things like homocysteine and byproducts of stress and fight or flight. When we look at what is actually plaquing up the arteries, fat, calcium, cholesterol, and, quote, other substances. And I looked at what those other substances were, and there's a lot of indication that heavy metals are implied. Lead, cadmium, mercury, things like that. So, this cholesterol problem is I don't know. It just seems a little fishy. It's a heart disease problem, which is really a plaquing of the artery problem, and then we find cholesterol in that plaque. So just saying, hey, let's fix the cholesterol part of all that isn't really fixing this whole big idea of why is your body, plaquing up its arteries, and what's the deal with the fat and the protein and the heavy metals and the calcium, right? And remember this whole thing about fight or flight. When we need really quick energy and we're stressed out, we pull calcium out. Those adrenal hormones will help you with calcium. Sometimes it comes out of the bones and it goes to the muscles for muscle contraction. So if you have all this calcium floating around through your system, and what's everybody eating these days? Doctors tell them for strong bones, you got to eat all this calcium. So we got this calcium floating around like crazy. I don't think that's the best idea for strong bones. I think walking and eating broccoli is probably the best thing you could do. Don't do it at the same time, obviously, but after you're done walking, go eat some raw broccoli. Great source of calcium. Don't drown yourself in dairy products, please. Not going to be very digestible calcium. Let's see here. Something that got me, it's kind of funny, I was watching, you guys watch, what's that show? The Apprentice, The Celebrity Apprentice. I haven't watched Donald Trump in years, but he is entertaining, and I think he's probably a brilliant guy when it comes to either business or self-promotion, because he's on TV a lot, and he's referenced a ton. So if you guys haven't seen The Apprentice, they have tasks they have to do, and this week, I guess, was Walgreens has this Walk with Walgreens thing. And the executives came out and they talked to this group about how they have to market this walking event, which I think is terrific. And I really appreciate and applaud Walgreens for making it a priority. Kind of interesting, though, that they said their main goal is health, because I thought business's main goal was to make money. And great, if you keep the doors open, then you can help people. But when I go into Walgreens or CVS Pharmacy or Rite Aid, or which, in all honesty, in my county, I've seen 5 new ones built in the last couple of years. New construction in a recession, if that tells you what's booming. And I walk in, I see tons and tons of knickknacks, tchotchkes, and some power bars and weightlifting bands and dumbbells and things like that. And I go, well, that doesn't really seem like it's big into health. I mean, it's good into the health industry and selling things, but you've got to be self-directed or you can make a mess in that place, right? But then in the back is what I see, a big, beautiful white pharmacy. And chances are that's where the cash is coming from. So let's be real here. Pharmacy's job is to make money, right? It's not to keep you healthy. That's what your doctor's supposed to help you do. But nowadays it seems like the pharmaceutical industry is telling the doctors what to tell you. And, I'm not going to preach about this one or get into the conspiracy theory, but it is a little disheartening to think that, nowadays that health is pharmacology, and that's what you get most of the time. I think statins are a big, big money maker. That's, your whatever, Lipitors and your Crestors and all that. I read a study a while back that actually showed that fish oil in a European study against Crestor outperformed it. And I've been reading and watching videos by a lot of smart people who are university professors, and it's shaping up to look like that when you do research, you don't really have to blow away the placebo. You just have to beat the control group. And some of this research, the placebo almost does as well as the drug. So why you don't get a sugar pill when you go to your medical doctor for high cholesterol baffles me. I think it'd probably work better. And why you don't come to a guy like me and talk to me about heavy metals and calcium and fight or flight and what cholesterol's job is, that also baffles me too. And that's a little plug for consulting with me if you are curious about these things, or heck, at least respond to this email and ask me your questions. But what is very frustrating to me is seeing people just going and trusting things that are businesses. It's okay to influence industry, but, for instance, if a patient comes to me and says, Dr. Patterson, I'd really like to see you selling vitamin C in your office. Well, I might think about that and go, okay, and, they're customers of mine, right? Not just patients, so I want to serve my customers. Or if they tell me they don't like the teas I serve when they're doing their ionic detox foot baths, maybe I should get some chamomile, not just orange spice. Okay, great, I'm going to take that into effect. That's influence, and it's okay. Consumers should influence the business, right? But if my patient comes in and says, Dr. Patterson, there's this new instrument I want you to use, and this supplement, and it's a little close to a drug and it might have some interactions, but, oh, and by the way, I'm going to buy you a new office and I'm going to buy you new instruments and I'm going to double your salary. Well, that's the difference between influencing and, lobbying and controlling kind of thing. And I think what the corn industry is doing to food, or some of the cattle industry and fast food industry is doing to food production, that's not influence, guys. That's gross manipulation, in my opinion. Same thing with pharmacology, with the medical realm. They're not just saying, hey, would you mind, talking about Lipitor if somebody's tried diet and exercise and all these other things and they just can't get their cholesterol down? No. They're setting the standards. So that's what frustrates me. And that's maybe a little part of the rant of these darn pharmacies popping up on every corner. I mean, how many pharmacies do you need? Apparently more, because they are everywhere. And like I said, I worked at Long's Drugs right out of school, and that was a great job, actually during high school. And I had my little green smock and my feather duster. You guys remember Long's Drugs. And obviously they were using the $2 cases of beer and the gallon jugs of Carlo Rossi wine to bring seniors in to get their prescriptions filled. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out that the prescriptions is where the money is, because you can't make any money off cheap beer, tchotchkes, knickknacks, and 99-cent health bars at the check stand. It just doesn't work out that way. So anyhow, back to cholesterol. I'm just going to wrap up here. I just had a lot more questions after surfing all these guys' websites, these really smart people's websites. One of them, it was great. They told me I could have 2 alcoholic drinks a day. Holy cow, if I had 2 alcoholic drinks a day, my metabolism would be off, my blood sugar would be off, I'm sure my cholesterol would be up. But that is safe, apparently. They talk about removing cholesterol. We talked about that. That's your soluble fiber, which legumes, beans, great source of soluble fiber, great to help with the metabolism too. One of my favorite articles was by a medical doctor who researched a study, and he talked about risk factors of cholesterol, and he got really heady, which I like smart guys when they get heady, but holy cow, sometimes it's hard to read this stuff. Here's what I extracted from his data. Cholesterol is a risk factor in only 5% of those persons who died of heart attack or are dying of heart attack. Have an episode and then they go to the hospital. So 5%. But yet we think heart disease, cholesterol, heart attacks, all this really scary stuff. And once again, there's your fear tactics. So guys, the big picture, if you want to change your risk of heart disease, you have to do it from the inside out as well as the outside in. You can't just put a cholesterol pill in there and say, hey, lower cholesterol, you're not going to have heart attacks. Remember, the studies that show that lower cholesterol, basically the studies show people with less heart disease had lower levels of cholesterol. But you can't invert that and just say, well, lower cholesterol is why they had lower heart disease. Those people had 20 other things they were doing different. They worked hard physically, they stayed active, they didn't drink as much, they didn't do this. So you have to do all those other factors too. You can't just take the cholesterol part of it just because that's what smart business does, right? They take the piece they want, and they market it and promote it. Everybody has a right to have a business and earn a buck. It's one thing when that business influences you. It's another thing when that business controls an industry and basically manipulates you into thinking things work a little differently than they do. Anyway, here's the real risk factors for heart disease, atherosclerosis. Say that one 10 times. What you eat, your inflammation levels, immune deficits. When people's gut gets stressed and their immune system drops and they get all kinds of foreign invaders sneaking out their gut into their bloodstream, those foreign invaders, bacteria and viruses, have a huge implication when it comes to plaquing of the arteries. Heavy metals, like we said, lead, iron, cadmium, mercury, and more. And at the end of the day, what causes all this? You guys, stress causes all this. And not just emotional stress, electromagnetic, allergies and sensitivities, toxins in the environment. There's so many different stresses you guys are being exposed to, and many of you don't even have a clue. My job is to help you accurately assess and to help restore your body, and that's why I call my office Body Restore. So please, if you're an existing patient and you know friends and loved ones on this stuff, have them chat with me. I won't charge you to chat, Okay, consultation is always at my expense. If you've never seen me before, shoot me a question. Let me know you care. Make a comment. Come in for a free consultation. Very simple. I'm here to listen and offer you solutions to whatever your problems are. Anything from weight loss to you've suffered a heart